The two-pot retirement system is a groundbreaking change in South Africa's retirement savings structure, designed to offer more flexibility and access for funds for individuals. There is much more detail around the two-pot system than we ever anticipated. And after a recent FAnews webinar sponsored by Old Mutual, we realized that there are still many unanswered questions. So we are here to explore these details and address some of the key concerns that we've picked up in the webinar. Keith, Advice Manager for Personal Finance at Old Mutual, is joining me to talk about some of the issues raised in the webinar. Welcome, Keith. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much, Rianet, for the invitation.
Maybe let's start with a quick introduction on your role and where you exactly fit in at Old Mutual.
Rianet, like you pointed out, I am the Advice Manager for Personal Finance at Old Mutual. And in a nutshell, my role is to look after the quality of advice and the processes that our TIE advisors use when providing advice to customers.
From the feedback we received on the webinar, it's clear that there are still quite a lot of confusion from the advisor side, let alone clients, on how exactly this will work. Just a general comment on that statement from your side.
Rianet, I do agree with you. There is uncertainty and confusion, both amongst customers and financial advisors. And I believe that the confusion or the uncertainty actually stems from not understanding the reasons and the context for the introduction of the two-part system. And we know that it's all about ensuring better or improved retirement outcomes for members of retirement funds, at the same time also ensuring that accessibility to the retirement funds before the members actually do retire from those funds. The uncertainty can also be traced to a lack of understanding regarding the current system and comparing that to the new system to understand the benefits of the two-part system.
I think one of the things, speaking directly into your answer, is the 550,000 tax-free portion. And that's combining the old and the new. The question was, will this be applied in the two-part retirement system? And maybe you can expand on that a little bit.
Sure. Rianet, the current tax-free amount of 550,000 will actually remain unchanged. So when people retire from their retirement funds, they will still be entitled to that 550,000. It will be applicable to the lump sums that they take from the savings pot, as well as if they do have a vested pot, the 1/3 of the vested pot. So that 550 will still be in play. It's applicable to the savings pot and 1/3 of the vested pot if a member has the vested pot in their retirement fund. It also remains unchanged insofar as retrenchment and severance benefits are concerned as well. So if we recall, currently the system is that if you are retrenched, your severance benefit and any monies you take from your retirement fund will be taxed according to the retirement tax table. That will still be applicable in the two-part world as well.
Talk to me about the exemptions for individuals over 55 within the two-part retirement system.
So the two-part system or the two-part retirement system makes specific provisions for individuals who are members of Provident Fund and who were 55 years and older on the 1st of March 2021. So if we cast our minds back to the 1st of March 2021, we had the implementation of the annuitization of Provident Funds, which simply meant that all Provident Fund members would have their contributions post 1st March 2021 subject to the annuitization, which means that that will now be subject to the 1/3, 2/3 rule. However, there was an exemption at that stage for individuals who were over 55 not to be subject to the annuitization of provident funds. So in the new two-part world, where an individual was 55 years and old on the 1st of March 2021 and a member of the same provident fund, they will have the option to join the two-part system or not to join. If they do join the two-part system, or rather, let me say, if they don't join the two-part system, nothing will change. On retirement, they will still be entitled to receive their full provident fund value in cash, subject to tax according to the retirement tax tables. If they opt to join the two-part system, then their contributions post 1st September 2024 will be split into the savings pot and the retirement pot. They will still have their vested pot, which is everything that they've accumulated before the implementation date. So those who are over 55 on the 1st of March 2021, who were members of provident funds, the same provident fund, will have the option whether they want to join the two-part system or not.
Okay, great. That's good clarity. Thank you for that. Your role is very relevant to my next question. Do you see any potential advice risks associated with the implementation of the two-part retirement system? We are talking to advisors, and it's maybe just a good idea that we allude our audience to potential risks.
So for me, advisors and brokers have an important role to play in educating members, customers, people about the two-part system. So it's so important from an advice perspective that advisors actually alert individuals or members of retirement funds regarding the tax payable on the withdrawal from the savings pot annually. Now, why I say that is because the tax could actually increase the tax liability for that particular individual. So that's one advice risk that customers need to be aware of, that advisors can bring to their attention. The other important advice risk for me is educating clients about the risk of doing the annual withdrawals, which will then reduce the capital available on retirement to purchase an income. So regular annual withdrawals from the savings pot will diminish the overall fund value, which is then going to mean a lesser or reduced amount available for the member of that retirement fund to purchase an income. So those two things are quite important. The tax payable on the withdrawal is going to have an impact on an individual's tax liability in the current year that they make the withdrawal. And then the regular annual withdrawals will definitely have an impact on the fund value of that retirement fund.
Talking about advice, what makes me really nervous, Keith, is the fact that there are so many clients without advisors. Can you imagine how daunting, one, that might be for them? Two, half of them are probably completely clueless about the real implications about this. And I think long term we might see some real issues coming to the front about the fact that people were really not educated, and it even from our advisor space, if we get these type of questions, can you imagine from a client perspective?
Rianet, you are 100% correct there. I think my fear is for those members or clients or customers who don't actually have a financial advisor that can advise them. But I'm hopeful, and I've seen this, the fund administrators are playing an active role in educating the members of their particular fund. So from what I see from Old Mutual's perspective, our corporate division is actually ensuring that they make available certain tools and calculations, videos, etc., that will actually guide those customers when making decisions around the two-part system.
Maybe the relevance of the advisor here is more in the fact that people might take money out unnecessarily or for the wrong reasons. And I think that's where the advisor would also play a very critical role.
Rianet, I agree with you. The whole concept of what is an emergency comes to
Yeah,
mind. And an emergency is different for people. We,
100%.
we can't prescribe, you're right, we can't prescribe and say this is an emergency and it's
Yeah,
blanket across all members. I think that's where the advisor plays a critical role because
yeah.
they actually have a personal relationship with the particular client. They know their financial affairs, so they can judge very objectively whether the client is actually going to take out monies for an emergency. And if it's not an emergency, they can find alternative ways to assist the client to make sure that they don't necessarily touch the retirement fund monies unnecessarily, because there are other available options that will serve the same purpose. Even better, it might come at a far lesser cost from a admin fee or from a tax perspective as well.
I think the word emergency is going to get a whole new meaning in the dictionaries and in Wikipedia and everywhere else. Own interpretation.
100%. Yeah, we've been, asked about what qualifies for an emergency, and I'm so loath to actually give a description because my emergency is not the same as your emergency. And the
100%.
unfortunate reality for me is that members of retirement funds do not have to necessarily justify why they're taking out the money. That for
100%.
me is where the advisor plays a critical role to kind of give a more objective opinion to the client and to say, you need to be realistic about why you're taking the money out. You need to understand the implications immediately, tax that's payable, and then secondly, the impact on your long-term retirement outcomes as well.
Yep. We had an interesting question from one of the audience members, and it is very relevant. How would the two-part system impact the clean break principle in case of divorce?
A very interesting question because we need to ensure that we have alignment between the Divorce Act and the legislation governing the two-part system. But currently, from what we understand, in principle, the two-part system should not impact the clean break principle. So the non-member spouse will still be entitled to his or her award in terms of the divorce order. And in terms of the clean break principle, they can have those monies paid out to them in cash immediately, provided that the fund administrator has relevant documentation and the instructions from the non-member spouse, or they can have the monies transferred to an approved retirement fund. The only difference here is that the award will have to be split between all three pots if all three pots are applicable to the member spouse. So the vested pot, the retirement pot, and the savings pot. And the other important thing here is that once the fund administrator actually receives the divorce order, they must ensure that the member spouse doesn't have access to the savings pot until the award to the non-member spouse has been finalized.
It sounds like a lot of admin.
Yes, it does. But I think the main thing here is the clean break principle is going to remain as is. The non-member spouse is going to be entitled to receive his award, whether it's in cash or transfer to another approved fund. So nothing's going to change the fundamental principle.
Okay. I think we've covered quite a good bit. Do you have any, as a sideline, any guesses, any predictions rather on how many people you believe are going to have emergencies? Let's put it that way.
I like that question. I actually think, Rianet, everybody is going to possibly have an emergency. When I read social media posts in response to industry or stakeholders articles, the most common response that I receive, or rather I see, is people actually saying, "That's my money. I'll take it out. I'm not going to wait till I retire to receive the money." So for me, that's indicative of the lack of understanding on the part of customers or members of retirement funds as to the impact of withdrawing. And once again, I must bring advisors and brokers into the equation here. They are the subject matter experts. They are the ones that can rein in this irresponsible, I'm saying it very loosely, behavior on the part of people who don't understand or appreciate what they could be doing by accessing their monies unnecessarily. So guessing the number, it's, anyone's guess as to how much or how many people will actually take out their monies. I know from memory, we put out a withdrawal calculator. I think we had about 50,000 people accessing it. And Old Mutual, from a figure perspective, they've actually indicated or done some homework, and they found that in terms of outflows, we're looking at a potential of about 14.2 billion rands outflowing in after the 1st of March 2024. And if you split that up, the numbers are about 7.9 million withdrawals from your retail retirement products like RAs, and about 6.3 billion from your occupational sponsored retirement funds, pension, provident preservation funds. But the interesting thing that we also notice is that withdrawals are not exclusive to the lower income market. We actually found that middle to wealthier clients are also going to be accessing their seeding capital or their savings pot come 1st of September 2024.
I think it's a conversation for another day, but is that not like really concerning?
The figures, the 14.2 billion, it is concerning, but if we look at it in comparison to the assets under management in respect of funds that Old Mutual holds when it comes to retirement fund monies, Old Mutual holds, I think, about 1.3 trillion.
Okay.
So if you
Small
have
number.
Yes. And I think across the industry, if I recall, most of the bigger companies or asset management companies are kind of quoting the same numbers as well.
Okay.
So it seems like a small number. Rianet, I think most people will access it immediately, in the first year. And I think they will then come to the realization that accessing this is going to impact them from a tax perspective, as well as impact their long-term retirement outcomes.
Let's wrap it up, Keith. That is very interesting. I think we've covered a lot of stuff based on the feedback you've seen on the webinar and general questions you get from advisors. Your advice to our audience, who's the advisors.
So my first piece of advice is the two-part system needs to be understood from the objectives that it requires to achieve. So I've mentioned that already, allowing or balancing two things, allowing people access to their retirement funds before they retire, and then secondly, ensuring compulsory preservation of the bulk of your retirement fund monies, making sure that members or individuals or people will be able to retire much more comfortably. I think the other thing is to advisors out there, best advice would be to try and assist clients to find other ways to satisfy any emergencies that clients might have. Find other liquidity options. So, for example, if a client happens to have an investment, there could be alternatives. Either an endowment could provide the one disinvestment once alone with minimal or no tax payable. So once again, you're comparing that to actually accessing your money from the savings pot, which is subject both to fees as well as taxes. Also, advisors could guide clients in looking at how best to manage their debt, budget consolidation or debt consolidation, revisiting your budget to make sure that you can actually find other alternatives to settle debt without touching your retirement funds. So I think advisors, for me, play an integral part when it comes to educating customers or members of retirement funds on what they should do and what they shouldn't do under the new two-part system, and more importantly, illustrating the negative consequences by doing a holistic financial plan, or perhaps by doing a complete retirement plan to make sure the clients understand the implications of withdrawing unnecessarily from that savings pot.
Thank you for your time, Keith. Very interesting conversation, and let the conversation continue, most certainly. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.